Good morning. I'm so glad that you're here because it's such a big week for us. And there's some things I want to go through and explain to you and sort of put into perspective because I've had a busy last week getting ready for this week. Of course, doing readings and sessions and meetings with friends going like, help me understand this. So I thought I'd bring it all to you and explain it. So it is a powerful week for us. And I'm going to start first with thanking you for coming, of course. And if this is of value to you, please like and subscribe and pass it around because this is really important information to get out there. And I don't know how many people are sort of putting it all together. Well, we do it uniquely, right? So this is my lens, this is my perspective. And just to put it into perspective, I'm a double Pisces. My sun and my moon are 7 degrees apart. And so Pisces is just sort of all that I am. So I'm able to sort of navigate through this in a very unique and different way. So let's just sort of dive in. First and foremost, have you noticed that the solar flares have been, what do we want to say, quieter than usual? Much quieter than usual. I want to show you, this is what the space weather looks like. And I don't know if you can tell, but those things down there are green. And when it's green, it's in the B class. So currently this morning we were at a B8. And I was like, wow, how is that? And then we have these little, like occasionally a C, and then over here at an M1. And so we've had some M class flares, and they've been much sort of spread out and quieter, right? So when the flares are quieter, this is, I've talked often about the M class being a tower, and a tower can either like boom, explode you, or with the light seers, I like how the energy comes into nature. The animals are curious, they're working with it, they're awakened by it. There's reverberations coming around from this. And so maybe these tower moments that we're having that are so gentle are actually assisting us much more than we thought. And they're not as devastating as they have been in the past, or they will be in the future, because we're not through with this solar flare era or stage yet, right? So when we look at when I'm saying it's quiet, um, this we've been for the month of March so far, and here we started last Sunday, so we've had 2 solar flares in an M1s period. The rest have been C's, and C's are sort of like that tapping, tapping, tapping. What do you want us to do now? Separate from that, there's been a coronal hole that was found on Friday, February, that was seen Friday, March 7th. And when we have a coronal hole in the sun, what it does is it sort of opens up and provides winds. So we have been under a solar wind activation. And so, if this is normal, this is how high it's been. This was last night. Let's see, it probably would have been about 1 a.m. Or midnight Pacific Standard Time. Pam Youngins put this up. So it just tells you that when what happened on Friday is going to cause these kind of solar winds and geomagnetic activity all weekend long. When this happened, it was kind of fun to watch someone post the Schumann resonance at the same time, so you can see that when this coronal hole comes open, it just dumps. So what it is it's a rush of light. It's photons. It's boosting our body alignment, and it's creating some wild and crazy behavior because some of us don't know what to do with all that extra energy, and it can activate us. So some of the symptoms are nausea, fatigue. You need a lot of sleep when these winds come in. I noticed that throughout the whole month of March so far, it's as if I can't get enough sleep. I'm going to bed early. I'm trying to sleep in late. Sometimes I want to take a nap during the day, and I'm like, is this depression? And then I realized, no, it's not. I'm actually exhausted dealing with all of the energies, and I'm doing most of the energetic work at night when I'm sleeping. So it would make sense that there's some sleep disturbances, either more or less. What else? Brain fog, tons of brain fog when these winds start going, right? So what I want to do is move from the sort of gentle solar flares, which I'm really happy they're doing that because we are solidly in the Neptune at 29 degrees. Absolutely, solidly at Neptune at 29 degrees. Started March 4th, goes to March 30th, 31st, depending on what part of the world that you're in. And it is that degree of fate. It in that 20, that anaretic 29 degrees is going to bring out either an enormous amount of chaos or your most profound mastery. So, what I want to talk about today is that profound mastery, right? Because I've been, as I said earlier, I have had, I don't know, 6 or 7 coffee dates this week in the mornings with people who are going like, "Whoa, what's going on?" All of a sudden I have this issue with clients, this issue with my body, this issue, and I'm going like, let's talk about Neptune because Neptune's really important. Neptune is our fourth largest planet. It is the ruler of the oceans. It is also the ruler of Pisces, right? So it is high levels of sensitivity, right? It's claircognizant. It's a planet that knows information that doesn't have a structure for how that education, that knowledge is measured. It's just a wisdom planet, right? And Pisces is where our clairvoyance, our clairsentience, but our claircognizant. I can't explain how I know things. It's where our empathy, our empathic skills lie. I like to think if you've ever watched Deep Space Nine, Neptune is like Odo, that water being that can shapeshift and observe everything. This is where art and science come together and blend. We're not able to distinguish the difference between the two because all of our fractal science-based information melds with our creativity and our art and our ability to understand symbols and systems, right? It Oh, the one thing I learned this week is that Pisces summarizes all of the previous 11 houses. And so it's very much like the Fool. And I wish I didn't pull a Fool card. Shoot, I didn't pull a Fool card out to show you. But the Fool is if you listen to me when I teach tarot, is the master of all. The Fool has been all 72 cards before. And so the Fool is confident and mastered in many things. And the last piece I would want to say about Neptune is that it's really basically non-human. It isn't, and the ability is sort of to affect the emotional waters of whatever sentient being it holds. And when we go to Pisces, Pisces is often that that galactic sort of bigger picture. And so Pisces isn't able to sort of hold all of those things. And then Pisces brings in information all the time. I like the High Priestess as the method in the light seers for what it does. And Pisces is also the moon. So you can sort of see where there's this watery, mutable movement, right? That happens with Pisces. So as we have Pisces, as we have Neptune in Pisces going through the 29th degree, we also have Venus retrograde going through the 29th degree. So that the example I've been using with my clients and friends is that it's like you can take this, like if you could open up your rib cage or open up your field and show who you are underneath. And so go shoulder to shoulder, hip to hip, and imagine that this entire torso can be opened and that there's a level of information in there that you don't know about yourself, right? So it might be your connection to intuition, it might be mastery or energy and something else. It might be the whole soul purpose why you incarnated and came here. So the idea that this, like, whoa, how do we access what's really inside of us? And so this isn't minor. This is as if out of 185 years throughout the whole Neptune cycle, or the last 14 years in Neptune and Pisces, we've been going through these tower moments, these taps, like you want you from a higher perspective to stop pretending like you're somebody else and start being who you came to be. So the question that I keep asking is, like, if you want to pull open in this and establish who is this inner self, who are you really? Like, really? If you're afraid to look in, it's okay. It makes sense, right? And it's time. So, who are you? What's your superpower? Where are you from? Why have you held back from revealing who this is, right? And why are you really here? So, as I've been progressing through last week, building up to this Neptune at 29 degrees, and sort of working with this exercise, of course, I have to share what I've been discovering with these friends and clients and colleagues, right? And so what I'm noticing is that there's a very strong, courageous, almost beast like sometimes when I open this up, I see dragon eyes looking back at me, or I see Daenerys from the Game of Thrones, or I see Nesta from from the Thrones, Courts and Throne, Thr- uh, Thorns and Roses series. And so, like there's this this like, don't mess with me. And I think that this month you're going to see me in each video sort of becoming a little bit more, maybe in some ways daunting, and in other ways very clear, and still very soft and available as a guide, because this is sort of like what I know. And I'm here to sort of say, how are you going to go explore that? How are you going to find this out? Because it's time. It's time to sort of explore this. And the reason it's time also is that on the 13th and 14th of this week, right? So what we're looking at is on Thursday and Friday of this week, we have this full lunar eclipse, and it's the Virgo moon in Pisces. So it's the Virgo moon dynamics. And so on the 13th, it starts and I'm going to go Mountain Daylight Time because it's daylight savings time now, at 9:57, peaks at 12:58 a.m. on the 14th, and ends at 4:09. Now, here in Montana, I've looked at the weather reports. We're going to be cloudy and snowy and rainy the whole time, and I'm bummed because I really like looking at these lunar eclipses. This particular eclipse is about letting go, and it's about allowing something to emerge. And so when you have this moon, this blood moon coming up, and you're sort of trying to decide who you are, it's like the cosmic shit show, because you're going to find out things about yourself, right? And then you're going to have to just sort of surrender to it and go, oh no. And then you're going to find that there's this inner power in you, and help if I could find it, some of the pieces are going to fall into place as to who are you, why are you here, and what's the purpose of all of this. And what I love is that it gives you a way to sort of become who you're going to become on this earth. So let's go through some of this stuff, like what if we can no longer keep our inner selves hidden, and it's going to come out whether we want it to or not? I'm the one who says, let's partner with this, right? And what if it's the time, right? And with this week ahead, with this eclipse, with the month of March, we're going to be discovering so much about ourselves. We're in this tower moment. So let's make it gentle and let's make it wonderful. Now, I have 6 tips for you. And before I go into those tips, I want to invite you to Patreon, because there's a couple of different ways that it's really important. First, it gives you resources to where I post what articles I'm reading, who I'm following, and what we can do. And then the second thing is that you can join the conversation. We have a gathering every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time. So you can meet and greet with other people. And then depending on the category, you can also have access to me to do a once a month check-in. So Patreon's really, really important. The other thing is I've been doing more tarot sessions in the last week than I have in months. And it makes sense because what we're looking at is guidance and discovery. So I can also do one-on-one sessions with you. So that's just my plug for how I can assist you more than this once a week. And it supports me as well. So tip number 1 is identify your own resistance. What's your resistance to step forward? Because it's natural. It's going to make so much sense when you don't know what's inside of you, and because this world has not always been safe, and it has never not always been welcoming, right? So you have found that maybe there's this beast inside of you, or this magical magician, or this witch, or this master, of something, right? And you are needed to come forward. So we have to step through our fears. So identify what the fear and the resistance is and work with it. That's the first one. Number two, it helps me, and it might help you. This is my favorite tip, is that to identify characters in books or films or series that you can use to assist this inner discovery. There's a whole group of us that have been reading the Crescent City series of Sarah J. Maas, and so we can throw out these characters. We can throw out the Courts of Thorn and Roses characters, and everybody's at different stages. So that helps us sort of go like, well, where are you right now? Who do you identify with? It helps me because then I can sort of align with that person and make it okay. And what I'm going to say is it gives us a pathway to allow ourselves to become that, whether it's Wonder Woman, whether it is Superman, like, underneath my shirt, I have these magical skills, right? Just whatever terminology, whatever characters work for you, identify them and use them as that pathway out. Number three, I think you need to prepare for responses from others and reactions from others, because the world the world around you will adjust. And so if we make a tiny change, what we notice is that the world adjusts and changes around us. When we make bigger changes, the world adjusts around us as well. So, I've often said that this is the era where we're going to lose people, places, and things. We may no longer be able to stay in certain relationships. We may no longer feel comfortable playing a role within our family that our family wants to hold very tight and keep us in the past in that role. We may no longer be able to do the work that we used to do. We may no longer be able to live in the areas that we live. These are the small and maybe huge adjustments that we're going to need to make as the world responds to who we are when we reveal ourselves. Number four, allow Neptune, Venus, and the moon eclipse to sort of guide you, right? Let it be an impetus. Let it be that surge of energy. And where is it? Here, let it provide these surges for you to go like, I'm just going to ride this. So, those of us who have fresh snow, when you have fresh snow, you get out on the snow. When you're in the river, you use the rapids. This is where you use the momentum of some of these things that are happening, and you let them talk to you and you let them guide you. You let them tell you who they are. So it's not uncommon right now to sit down in a quiet place and have a conversation with Neptune and say, what do you want me to do with this inner self, right? Number five, seek your tribe, your people, because many of you come here each week because what I'm saying resonates with you. And then all of the comments and all of the hundreds of people and thousands of people who watch these at different times, depending on the topic, right? We are all holding some sort of curiosity. How do we find each other? How do we find people like us out there in the world, whether it's local, whether it's through digital? I have friends I have mentioned that I talk to that are all over the world. And I think one of my favorites is I have this friend and colleague in Australia that it's 18 hours apart. We know exactly what time in the afternoon for me and what time in the morning we can talk, and then we get on WhatsApp and we like validate each other, like, yeah, this is what I'm feeling, this is what I'm seeing. So find your tribe in the world wherever they are, because it's really important to know that you're not alone in this, and that as this emerges, as this inner you emerges, much more is going. You're going to need much more support, right? Number six, have compassion, because we're emerging, we're stepping forward to be seen, right? We're actually going to be seen. And we're going to need to do that at our own pace. And some of us are going to be very bold about it. And some of us are going to guide and model it. And some of us are going to be very resistant and pop it open, shut it, pop it open, shut it. We all have our own pace. And it brings joy, and it also brings change. So we're going to do this at our own pace. Everyone's working at it in their own way and being driven by flares, by winds, by by photons falling onto the earth, by planets pulling at us, by moons that are tipping us upside down. So have compassion. And I hope that this is helpful and that I'm able to translate some of these big energies for you. And do please do drop by Patreon and become a supporter, or find your own way to support me. There's ways underneath where you can make donations and just sort of say, love what you're doing, keep doing it. And I'll either see you Tuesday or I'll see you next Sunday. Take care. Bye bye.